Hello guys, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, يعطيكم العافية. This is Rifat Al from the English department, the Islamic University of Gaza. This is our second online course, an introduction to Shakespeare, which is an advanced course at the Islamic University English department for literature, translation, and education students. We'll continue doing our introduction about Shakespeare. I don't like to give long introductions. I like to introduce the authors through their work. Therefore, next week we start with Hamlet. I'll expect you to go through scenes, probably 1 and 2. If you don't have time, you can just do scene 1. Remember, I told you before that when you prepare for a play, especially something written around the time of Shakespeare, it's good if you go on YouTube and watch one of the good performances. There is a series of productions by the BBC. If you find them, these are the best productions of Shakespeare in general, but you'll find other good productions. So if you have the book, the play, the text, you can follow, you watch the scene and follow the stuff. What I want you to do is to get the general idea, the general atmosphere. You don't have to know each and every single word. But if you feel stuck here, that there is something you need to know, you can translate the difficult words. The copy, the book you have is really good. If you had a look at the soft copy or the hard copy, there is always explanation for the difficult words. And at the end of each scene and each act, there is an amazing summary, not like the online Wikipedia summaries, but some summary with analysis, with commentary on significant issues. Because it's good to know the story, but we need to know why and how things do. I'll show you that in the first classes, so you learn how to approach, how to analyze, how to understand the drama and Shakespeare. One last thing is that I want you to try to read or recite some parts you like. In the class assessment, if you remember, there is 5 marks for a good recitation, but I'll ask for this later on. But you need, if you go to YouTube, when you study a scene or something, and I tell you this speech, this soliloquy, go to YouTube and write, for example, Hamlet's first soliloquy, the king's speech, something like this, and try to imitate the actors. Because if you do that, you live the moment, you live the scene, you feel the sadness, the darkness, whatever there is. Okay, today we have also something interesting. Not much there, but it's good to know something about who Shakespeare is. If you know me, you know that I don't like to focus more on the person, the author himself or herself. I care more about the text. The text always comes first. And I believe this also in translation. You will be asked, who is more important, the text, the translator, or the client, the author, for example? Some people will say the client, because I work as a freelancer and the client tells me translate this in this way. So, okay, I listen, I obey, I follow the rules. But the text always comes first. There's a theory I mentioned before that it's called death of the author. It has many interpretations, but once the author produces something, he's gone, he's dead. He no longer contributes to the understanding of the text. And we usually say, knowing something about the author could be interesting, could be fascinating, could be wonderful. But the life of the author usually has little to contribute to understanding the text. We understand the text from the text itself, from analyzing the text, from understanding the language, the figures of speech, the literary devices, the dramatic devices, as we are going to see. But there's a big question about who Shakespeare Shakespeare is. This is our session for today, and then at the end, I'll ask you to tell me what joke you like about Shakespeare, and if you have an interesting thing to tell me about your family, your parents or grandparents, and Shakespeare. So I showed you these pictures. There are many of them. There is actually a more recent picture that was discovered 10 years ago that people think that this could be the real Shakespeare. So this man is like a chameleon, chameleon زي الحرباية. He appears and disappears and changes color in so many ways. Uh, did you see this joke before? Did anybody see this joke? Can somebody explain it to me? Did you see it before? Anybody? Did you see it before? Yeah? No? Can somebody explain?
I read
Can I
one
say?
like it. I think because his birthday and death date is the same.
Ah, yeah. Who wanted to say something else? Wala?
Um,
Yeah, I believe because it's like the day your birthday is basically the day in which like you might die or something like
You
that.
might, you might die.
No, like I forgot how to explain it. Like I
Reem,
just forgot it.
can you help, Reem?
yeah, I read that it was said that Shakespeare's birthday, 52 birthday, is the same day he died.
Yeah. So it is said, but nobody is certain that he was born or he died on the same day he died on the same day he was born. فكانه like that's why that moment when you receive birth wishes مبروك 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 وفي نفس الوقت أعظم الله أجركم البقاء لله. So it's like you feel confused, and I think this is interesting about Shakespeare. And many people find it romantic that he died on the day he was born. I actually made up this joke. I don't think it's that funny, but maybe I don't know. So Shakespeare was born in a town called in England Stratford upon Avon in 1564. And again, there's no certainty about when exactly he was born. But it's interesting that we study Shakespeare in the spring term. So sometime in a couple of months we will probably celebrate his birth. But don't forget. If I forget, you please remind me. Somebody add a reminder to your calendar or something. It is said he was baptized on April 26th, and the habit that day was like when you are born 2 or 3 days later you are baptized. Baptized in Christianity, ta'meed. Shakespeare only went to a grammar school. طبعا again, just a grammar school is nothing, because at that time rich people, royal people, noble families sent their kids to either Oxford or Cambridge. Those people were described as the university wits, الفطناء الدهاء, because they went to they studied Greek mythology, Greece, Latin, ancient languages, cultures and civilizations, grammar, science, about the stars, about geography, about everything. So they were called university wits. But Shakespeare only went to a grammar school. So that's why many people ask, well, how come? How can one who just خلص يعني سادس ابتدائي can do this? Is it possible? Later on, he married a woman older than him. Her name is Anne Hathaway. And the name is very interesting. There is an actor called Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
But Hathaway, if you remember,
طب ممكن ما يكون اسمها الحقيقي، ممكن تكون هداك، ممكن ما يكونش اسمها الحقيقي يعني.
possible, yeah, but
يعني مش لهالدرجة إنه يكون نفس العيلة.
no عادي يعني ليش؟ ما هي في من دار بيكر ومن دار الزاملة عادي يعني بنلاقي 13 روائي الزاملة. It's not a problem. Is it weird that we have people the same family? No, of course not. So Hathaway, some people make jokes here because hath at the time of Shakespeare, remember, he would say hath instead of has. So like Anne has a way. She has a way. She has her own way. Anyway, so she was pregnant. They got married. She was older than him, and for many years he would leave her for months and months in Stratford upon Avon. He didn't take her to London with him, and he would go to London and then come back to visit. He had kids. One of them is called Hamnet, like Hamlet. Okay, Hamlet and Hamnet. Again, who died very young, and some people think that this created this darkness in Shakespeare's life. He lived for about 25, like when many people felt that he felt bigger than this town, and he went to London. He was ambitious. He wanted to be an actor. First, he started his life as an actor, and later on he became the writer we know. He died on April 23rd, 1616, aged 52. The most interesting thing about Shakespeare is that he died like 3-4 years before he died. He stopped living in London, stopped the writing and everything, and he went back home. For many people, they think that he was waiting for death. He was telling death, I am ready, I've done everything I want to do. And this is brilliant. Many people, if you like football, for example, many great players spend like they want to play until they are 40, and at the end of their career they become horrible players, and then people start insulting them and saying bad things about them, like why wouldn't, and then all that people remember about them is how bad they were. That's why like many people are now trying, like they say, okay, we want to enjoy more of Messi and Ronaldo, but the best thing Messi and Ronaldo can do now is to retire. تخيل ميسي يلعب كمان 5 سنين كورة، هيصير الناس تقول لك مين هالميسي هذا، he's not a good player. But Shakespeare was in his peak، في قمة عطائه. He was doing a great job writing the best plays, and then he retired. Wow, was waiting for death, welcoming death. So as a writer, he wrote 37 plays, but not many people agree. Some people say probably there are a couple of more plays. There are plays that were lost. Maybe no, this play is not his, or these plays were collaborated. So less or more, but this is the number people agree on mostly. So some of his plays are histories, comedies, and tragedies, and some are called romances or tragicomedies. But this is not fixed. You probably studied in the Elizabethan course that about the Merchant of Venice, of course. For many, many years, it was considered to be a comedy because people made fun of, hated Jews and made fun of Shylock. But later on, this changed with the politics and how people, started being more tolerant, stopped being racist. Like there is a lot of racism and bigotry nowadays, but why would you hate somebody because he's different in color, the way he speaks, the way she speaks, the way what he believes in? So some of these plays are now known as problem plays, tragicomedies. Shakespeare wrote, I think, 2 very long poems and wrote 154 sonnets. And even with the sonnets, some people say probably 1 or 2, 3 more or less. He wrote, his longest play is Hamlet. His longest play is Hamlet. It's 4,000 المسارح مسرح الدراما. You count it by how many lines there are. عشان تطلع على الكتاب تلاقي line 5, 10, 15, 20. So when the teacher says line 17, you don't have to count. You just quickly go to 15, 16, 17. 4,042 lines. That's Hamlet. The longest play. طبعا بالمناسبة his longest play Hamlet. شايفين كلمة Hamlet؟ شايفينها؟ الأصل خطأ. الأصل مكتوبها إيش؟ Do you remember? How do you write the name of the text?
Quotation
Between quotation marks or italics. لأن هذا ممكن حاجبها لكم في الامتحان، ممكن يجيكم سؤال في الامتحان. تميز بين Hamlet the character and Hamlet, the play. So I have to be accurate myself because I'll test you. So you say his longest play Hamlet. هيك بتصير ايش؟ The play. You don't have to say the play. So Hamlet لما اقول لكم انا في الامتحان Hamlet has 4042 lines. هتكون Hamlet with quotation marks or without quotation marks? With quotation marks because I mean the text.
with
His works contain about 1 million words. كل أعماله على بعض. مع هالمعلومة بتهمنيش كتير أنت تحفظ لي قديش 380. I don't care about this, but it's good to know. He invented more than 1,700 words. We spoke a little bit about that. And also he was an actor. He first went to London, he performed on stage. And many people believe that this is one reason why he was a genius playwright. Because when you are a good actor, when you understand the stage, the play, the audience, the elements of the drama you're making, you understand the atmosphere, the target audience, you can write something that is suitable for them. He worked for a company called the Chamberlain's Company, and then the King's Company later on. And then Shakespeare had his own theater called the Globe. يعني Globe يعني زي الكرة الأرضية. And this is a beautiful name. He uses this word globe to pun on something. We'll see later on. Remember, women were not allowed to perform, to act during the time of Shakespeare and even after the time of Shakespeare, because it was like a taboo, haram, عيب وصحش. So who played the roles of women? Young boys with soft voices. So yeah, I insist that he is behind the greatest plays of all time. Thank you, Wala Farah, for this beautiful meme. I'll start a post for memes. If you have memes to post, that would be cool. So this is like me saying Shakespeare, 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 and then students like, you're exaggerating. He's not that great. And then me coolly, nonchalantly saying, okay, thank you, good idea. I respect your opinion. Let's discuss the man behind the greatest plays of all time. But Wala and others will discuss the works themselves rather than the man. But just today, we'll talk about the man a little bit. So there is a big question about the authorship of Shakespeare. Who wrote Shakespeare? The interesting thing is that for like 200 years, not many people doubted who Shakespeare is. And by the way, most people considered Ben Jonson and other writers to be greater than Shakespeare. The more people spoke about Shakespeare, the more they praised him, the more people doubted who Shakespeare is. So they started this, this called conspiracy theory about Shakespeare. مين هذا شكسبير؟ طلعوا من القائمة. It's a long list. Some people say we don't know who he is. It's an anonymous person who used the name of Shakespeare. Some people say no one exists by the name of Shakespeare even. It's just a fake name. And some people say no, somebody paid Shakespeare money to put his name on the plays for one reason or another. One way, if we talk about the royal family itself, it wasn't something good to be associated with the play. في ناس تعتبر انت ملك مثلا او انت ابن امير family, noble family. زي ما كان سيدنا زمان الله يرحمه يقول لك بتضلك تجري يا سيدي ورا الجلده فانت ملك ابن اكابر. Like you're writing play for the theater, why are you doing this? So it could be a royalty. Even some people think that could be Queen Elizabeth herself, الملكة نفسها. عيب في حق الملك. It's not good for the queen to be writing plays and people criticizing and saying this is good or this is bad. So possible. Some people said no, this is a man from Oxford called the Earl of Oxford. His name is Edward de Vere. And people said no, it was Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus and the Jew of Malta. Some people said no, not Marlowe, it's Sir Francis Bacon. People say it's Ben Jonson. And many people, remember I said there are many things in Shakespeare about history, about geography, civilizations and the past, but the languages and chemistry and science and mythology and language and in physics and chemistry. So people say maybe Shakespeare is a group of people who were, used to sit together and say, let's produce excellent work. And each one who knows something about a particular aspect of science or knowledge, human experience, they would add it there, the play. And interestingly, some people recently, probably 10, 15 years ago, started saying, maybe Shakespeare is a woman. And even some people say he is مش بس كمان woman, a Jewish woman, an Italian Jewish woman. One, each theory has its evidence, has its reasons to say this, to support their argument. Some of them are interesting, some of them are stupid, some of them are elitist. We'll go through them very quickly and see what we can talk about. So there is Christopher Marlowe. Many people think that because Christopher Marlowe was educated, he went to university, he had knowledge of ancient history, mythology, civilizations, and Latin and other languages and Italian literature. He traveled a lot. Shakespeare didn't do this. Shakespeare wasn't that knowledgeable. But the problem is that he died, and Shakespeare and continued publishing until probably 1613, around this time. This man died 20 years before. And then they say, no, he didn't die. Marlowe faked his death. He faked because he was a spy. He was like the James Bond of the day. And he faked his own death and started publishing through Shakespeare because he was threatened by people to kill him. So interesting. But we'll see later on. In his plays, Shakespeare always makes fun of Marlowe because Marlowe, there are two major differences probably, or three major differences between Marlowe and Shakespeare. Number one, Marlowe focuses on the extremes, on great characters, on great tragedies, great errors, like we studied Dr. Faustus. On the other hand, Shakespeare covers all aspects of life and personalities and characters. Marlowe is bad at female characters. All his female characters, most of them are cartoonish. But Shakespeare has some of the most brilliant female characters, whether weak or strong or in between. Marlowe uses a highly sophisticated, highly poetic language to all characters in the play. If you are a king, a queen, a man, woman, you almost all speak the same language using iambic pentameter, blank verse. But Shakespeare changes the language of the speaker according to the speaker, and even sometimes according to the mood and the mentality, psychology of the speaker. And nobody can do it like Shakespeare. So there are differences, but yeah, there are similarities in certain issues. So هذا بيسموه Marlowe. The adjective for Marlowe is Marlovian. مش هنقول Shakespeare Shakespearean. Yeah. Marlowe Marlovian. So those Marlovian people find similarities in Shakespeare's plays and those plays by Marlowe. And even when you tell them, but he died, in about 20 years earlier, said, yeah, it was fake. It was fake. Probably this is one of the most popular uh, uh, theories there are. In my opinion, he's not Marlowe. But in my opinion, if Marlowe hadn't died early, not sure if you remember this from the introduction course, had Marlowe not died early, he would have surpassed Shakespeare. He could have surpassed Shakespeare. Maybe. كان تفوق على Shakespeare. Maybe. If he changes the things I just mentioned about language and women and types of characters. So some theory says, no, it's Sir Francis Bacon. This man traveled a lot. He is highly educated. They find many similarities between his poetry, his writings, and that of Shakespeare. And this is a man who has a lot of education and a lot of knowledge, who knows the society, traveled a lot, knows the countries. And he is, again, he knows all about science, about the spheres, about probably the stars and the earth and geography. So it could be him. And then there are those who say, no, he is the Earl of. Do you know this? Is anybody familiar with this picture? Edward de Vere, the Earl of Oxford. Do you know this picture? I'll give you 1 mark if you know this thing. You don't? You should. Right. I'll tell you about this. So probably the second most famous theory is that Shakespeare was somebody from Oxford. Name حتى اسمه بيقول لك the Oxford theory, نظرية Oxford. The Earl of the Oxfordians, Al-Oxfordiyun, those who believe that Shakespeare is not Shakespeare, because what, a grammar school? What would a grammar school do? It will be impossible for a grammar school to qualify you to write this, to be this poetic, this beautiful, this deep, this profound, this descriptive, this meticulous. It must be somebody who went to Oxford, who learned Latin, other languages, Italian, traveled, who actually is part of the royal family, لأنه هذا من العائلات النبيلة, Earl of Oxford. And interesting, look at this. This idea is elitist. تعرف يعني elitist؟ فيها نوع من يعني احنا بنقول ايش؟ نخبوية in a negative way. نخبوي من elitist. Why is this negative? Because we have this. بنشوفها كم لك بنشوف يا ناس. We know poets who didn't go to university, didn't study Arabic. أنا بعرف I know translators who didn't study English. An engineer or a doctor, they're excellent translators. فبتلاقي تعين الترجمة بقول لك اللي دارس ترجمة ودارس إنجليزي بقول لك but he didn't study English. I don't think he's good, he's deep, he's profound. I don't think he's that intelligent or he's that smart. We think that only people who went to university, only people who went to Oxford are good. In my opinion, this is the worst theory because it is elitist. It says that ordinary people, poor people, middle class people cannot be geniuses like Shakespeare. So the Earl of Oxford is another super popular theory that says Shakespeare was a man, a single Shakespearean ghostwriter. There was a man behind him. The picture here is taken from the movie called Anonymous. If you like movies, try to watch it. If you don't like movies, don't watch it. Beautiful. I hate the movie because it says that Shakespeare, it depicts Shakespeare as a, he's a dumb person, he's not smart, he takes money just to use somebody else's works. If you hate Shakespeare, you will like the movie. So that he is from Oxford, the Oxfordian theory, because Oxford was known for this يعني بيسموه ادوارد ديفيه بيسموه اوكسفورد. لو رحتوا على if you Google who wrote Shakespeare, you will have a very long Wikipedia page. They will say Oxford, Oxford, Oxford means this man. So he traveled a lot, he ran into pirates, he had experiences, a lot of education, he was a royal family, he's familiar with the many things that Shakespeare, because there's one thing that people say about Shakespeare, say nobody depicts the royal family, the mentality, the queen, the king, the princess like Shakespeare does. طيب. So it must be somebody who lived in the palace, in the court, somebody who's familiar with the intimate tiny issues of the monarchy, the royal family. في منطق في الكلام مش انه يعني. So all the royals and elite audience members, remember the queen herself would go sometimes and watch some of Shakespeare's plays, were close to the Earl of Oxford. De Vere's Bible, ودليل أقوى, it is said that this man had a Bible, a copy of the Bible, and there were some passages on the Bible, on the margins, that ended up in Shakespeare. So did he also write Shakespeare? Did somebody take his Bible later on and copied some of Shakespeare into his copy of the Bible? We're not sure. We don't know. The Earl died before Shakespeare. Most of those people died before Shakespeare. And when you say this, it's yeah, but they wrote these plays before and then later on they were published. There's always a reason for that. So if you look at this, this looks like a woman in a way, the ring. This is in the original Shakespeare picture, by the way, the ring, the ear, sorry, the earring. If you look at this, maybe Shakespeare is a woman. And I just said that there is an article, you'll find the links below, that Shakespeare was not only a woman, a Jewish Italian woman. I don't know, there is many references to spaghetti and pizza, I don't know. But most of Shakespeare's plays took place in Italy, in Rome, in Venice, in Verona. So was he a Jewish woman, a Jewish Italian woman from Venice? Maybe. Was Shakespeare actually a Venetian Jewish woman? By the way, this picture, if you look at this picture, it was discovered like, again, 10 years ago or so, 15 years ago. And many people think that this could be the real Shakespeare. What an interesting man. He's a chameleon. And then some people say, oh, okay, wait. Even somebody who went to Oxford cannot know everything. هذا كشكول, he knows everything. So they believe in what is called the group theory, where a group of writers must have agreed to collaborate to produce these plays, including Marlowe and Bacon and other contemporaries. But one thing here, two things I want to say. Number one, some of these ideas are elitist. Elitist in the sense that they are racist, that they think poor people can't write literature. People who didn't go to university and study drama and languages can be this interesting and profound. The other thing, it's impossible. يعني هذه يا جماعة, this is a conspiracy theory that is really, يعني تخيل احنا, and do you know that some people now still believe that the earth is flat? في ملايين ناس حول الأرض بيآمنوا إنه the earth is flat. الأرض مسطحة وليس كروية. فتخيل إذا كانت فعلا الأرض مسطحة، تخيل بدنا مليون نفر إنه إحنا نخبي المعلومات الحقيقية. Do you know that many people believe that the American landing, when America landed on the moon some 56 years ago, it was fake? You know, what's his name? He said, this is one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. هذه خطوة قصيرة بالنسبة لشخص لإنسان، لكنها خطوة عملاقة للبشرية. فالناس بتقول طلعوا كيف لطافة الفكرة، إنه لو أمريكا فعلا بدها تزيف الهبوط على القمر، هتحتاج إنه 500,000 بني آدم يخبوا المعلومات اللي صارت، وحتكلفهم 2-3 مليار دولار. يعني انك تغير نظريه المؤامره حتكلفك مبالغ طائله، يعني حتكون اغلى بكثير من انه انت فعلا ترسل ناس على القمر. ف why would you do this? So many critics believe it's impossible to hide this. There are valid reasons, but it's impossible to hide the conspiracy theory about who Shakespeare is. فاحنا بنخلص لحاجه واحده. Number one, we don't care. We care more about the text, the words, the poetry, the drama, the acts, the scenes, more than the author. But Shakespeare is Shakespeare. خلاص. Shakespeare is Shakespeare. But there is one interesting theory that I didn't mention so far. Can you guess which theory didn't I mention about who Shakespeare is?
Sheikh Zubair?
Yeah. Sheikh Zubair. Shakespeare and Alan Paul. Now, many people make fun of Al-Qaddafi when he said Shakespeare is an Arab man who traveled to Europe and to England and lived there and learned the language and everything. His name is Sheikh Zubair. We laugh when we hear this, but this shows how everybody wants Shakespeare to be him, to be theirs, to own Shakespeare. حتى يعني many Jewish people think that Shakespeare is anti-Semitic for the way he depicted what's his name, Shylock. He's racist, he's anti-Semitic. And then later on, some people say, no, Shakespeare is a Jewish woman. So it doesn't matter. Let's not bother ourselves. Let's take Shakespeare as Shakespeare. Let's focus more on what he did, what he wrote, whether it is this man or another person. So I'll stop here. This is all what I wanted to say today. And next class we examine ممكن only scene one. I don't want you to prepare scenes 1 and 2, just scene 1. Go through it. If you find it a little bit difficult, try to read the summary here, the analysis, and read the explanations on the margins. Or at least, if you don't have time to read, at least watch scene 1 on YouTube. Now, the second part of the lesson is number one, if you have something, please explain it. Tell me what you have in mind. If you want to say something about what I just mentioned about Shakespeare, if you read something and you want to contribute before we see your jokes and your interaction with your parents about Shakespeare. Anybody?
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Actually,
Yes.
I didn't like the idea that Shakespeare at first he made an outdoor globe for both rich and poor people, but after then he made a special indoor theater only for the very rich people. So why did he do something like this?
For the rich people?
Yes.
Okay, that's a very interesting. I don't think this is accurate.
Even though he came.
Okay, let me say, interesting, thank you. Number one, the drama was generally considered to be the literature of the masses. At that time, remember, later on, John Donne wanted poetry to belong to all people rather than to the elite, to the king and to the palace, and to the rich people and the noble, circles. But the drama was for all. Probably later on I'll show you something about the globe itself. There's a picture in the book, by the way. Now, everybody could attend. If you are rich, you would sit at the back up with a chair. Probably some people would be bringing you, some servants would be bringing you drinks, or If you are poor, you would be standing down next to the stage. Now, for many people, I am rich, I want to stay far away. However, it was always the poor people who were very close to the stage and to the actors. Sometimes they will tell them what to say, will pull their gowns and their clothes, or throw stuff at them. And later on, because of this idea, because they would be making fun and joke. تخيل انت you're in a theater, there are 500 people, كل الطلاب مقعودين ورئيس القسم قاعد ورا, and there is a play, وسهل بتصير واحد ايش ينكت يرمي له نكته على رئيس القسم يتمسخر على we do this all the time. ما حدا شايف, ما حدا سامع. فبيكوز the people, the poor people, the ordinary people, the masses were more dominant in the drama, in the theater, something else came to light. تكلمنا لكم في مادة المقدمة على حاجة اسمها the mask. The masks were plays where the actors were royal family members, would put masks, and this would be performed in the palace only for one time, once. هذه اخترعوها عشان يشردوا زي ما بقول لك من from the masses. So no, Reem, I don't think Shakespeare wrote only for the rich people. The plays, the plots were the place, the globe was for all. Yes, one more thing, Wala.
Yeah, commenting on what Reem just said. So I just wanted to say that his indoor theater was just the globe. But I think that the globe, I'm not really sure, but I remember that I once read that the globe got burned and then they built another one. But the thing is it was for everyone. The only thing that the rich people or the nobles would just sit back and on a higher place, while the other middle class and ordinary people would be nearer. But there was no one specific theater that is just for the nobles. I think it just got burned and then another one was rebuilt.
Yeah. And that's why the king, especially with King James, the Jacobean era later on, they had this masks, the masks. When Ben Jonson wrote many of these masks for the royal family. Some people say, yeah, you needed to travel. How can you know Italy and Venice and the geography and the difference between Cyprus and Venice, for example? So it's either you read a lot or you traveled a lot. And Shakespeare didn't have access to many books, to knowledge, to travel. It's really weird how those things take place. Reem?
I actually don't think that Shakespeare was supposed to travel all around the world in order to write what he wrote. For example, if he wrote Dr. Faustus for Marlowe, we could be a little bit confused because yes, Dr. Faustus has you have to have a lot of information about different sciences, but the Shakespearean plays, I think they don't have the same level of what Marlowe did.
Possible also. Noor, briefly.
Yes, I just want to say that the person in the last picture is Rhys Ifans, and he is a Welsh actor.
Which one?
اللي قلت لنا إنه عليها bonus mark.
This one?
Yes, he is Rhys Ifans.
No. Yeah, he's in this. I don't know him personally or his name, but he did an amazing job in this.
Yeah, so can I get one bonus mark?
No, because I told you. You already cheated.
No.
Okay, Rawan.
Yeah, I want to say that when some people said that maybe Shakespeare is a Jewish woman, I find it some kind of comic or ironic because he has the Merchant of Venice, and it's it's one of the most celebrated work for him, and it's anti-Semitic or there's unjustified haters for Jews, and maybe
Yeah.
it is only because they are Jews, and how he would be a Jewish woman.
Yeah, possible. So that is.
Can I apply for that?
I don't. No, we're not talking about anti-Semitism now. So that's it. But briefly, I don't think Shakespeare is anti-Semitic. I think he was exposing anti-Semitism and racism rather than showing, because at the end of the play, we kind of, some of the greatest speeches were given to Shylock. There was clear injustice done to Shylock. But yeah, how can you accuse him of being anti-Semitic and then say he is Jewish? But it doesn't mean we can find, there are Muslims who hate Muslims and hate Islam, right? So there might be Jews who hate other Jews. Ahmad?
Okay, I just want to ask, is there any other poets that graduate from grammar school in the age of Shakespeare?
Not many. That's a very good question. Very good question.
Why Shakespeare, the only man who steals all the lights, and like, where is the other classmates of Shakespeare?
You don't have to have classmates. Not all students graduate or finish school or university to be brilliant and excellent but that's a very good question here. I don't know for sure. Maybe you can Google it, Ahmed, and see what other people. That's a very good question. What other people, famous people who became famous later on, graduated, also only attended grammar school rather than. But even if you find some, they will remain, incomparable to Shakespeare and his achievement. طيب, because I don't want to take much time, who wants to share a funny joke about Shakespeare? Yalla, something funny, but be careful. I will ask you to explain if it's not clear to others. So yeah, what joke did you like about Shakespeare? Anybody?
Doctor?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, like I wanted to say that the funniest Shakespeare joke I found is that he had Hamlet for breakfast, which is really like it replaced omelet with Hamlet. It's a homophone word. Like these two different words are connected with each other
Yeah,
in
so
the very
because
first part of the word and the second as well, but it is irreplaceable. So replaceable, I mean. Like I started to imagine how Shakespeare had Hamlet on breakfast while he was started to eat, and he started to
so he
took
is
out his knife and
he's a cannibalist,
split
yeah?
his. Absolutely, yeah, he is, and he started, like to knife these pieces into smaller ones, and he just has
Stop, Muhammad.
Hamlet's.
Stop. Don't go there, because
Yeah,
his son is also Hamnet, so it could have been, I don't think he would eat his son. He's not a cat. But that's thank you
yeah,
for getting this. So Hamlet. Honestly, when I first read it, what does it mean? He had Hamlet.
Hamlet
So I
for
mean, oh my
breakfast.
God, Hamlet and omelet, Hamlet omelet. It's
Yeah, like they are
partial
really close.
homophones. Next,
Yes.
Dana.
Yeah. Actually, I read many Shakespeare jokes, but I
Tell us
found
one.
this one. Yeah, actually, I found this one is like the best of them. It's what did Shakespeare call his shower? Macbeth. Like I think it's so easy. No need to
So
clear it.
also
Like
playing on,
Macbeth.
Macbeth. Also
Yeah,
interesting. I never
yeah.
heard this before. Yara, tell us one joke about Shakespeare.
Yes, it's in Arabic. Is it okay? Shakespeare says إن الذين لا يستطيعون النوم مبكرا هم علماء ومفكرون المستقبل. So someone Egyptian replies to him, عيدها يا شيخ وخلي أهلي يسمعوا.
Okay, but you have to be careful that Shakespeare didn't say many of the things we use. There was some of you posted a meme on Shakespeare saying something about what's it about women, I guess. There are many fake Shakespearean quotes. So if you take this only as a joke, okay, I'll take it. But I don't think Shakespeare said أن العلماء والأذكياء لا ينامون مبكرا. Thank you. Still, Arij.
I read that one. That is, I found it really funny. Shakespeare says, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day, because you don't have a class."
Say again.
In summer, we don't have classes. So,
Okay. Say the joke again.
shall I compare thee to a summer day? So, because you don't have a class.
Okay, so this must have been a university student who coined this joke. Farah, somebody else? When you finish, lower your hand so you don't confuse me. Go on.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I just want to say that I asked my father about Shakespeare, and he told me the whole play of Merchant of Venice. And also, I asked him about the Sheikh Zubair, and he also know him. And my sister is a big fan of Shakespeare. Really, literally, she's a big fan of Shakespeare, and she wants to share you something.
Okay.
Can I?
Yeah,
I
خلاص
will.
خدوا راحتكم يا دار زينة.
Okay.
How old is she?
في رواية لشكسبير اسمها كوميديا الأخطاء، بتحكي عن اثنين توأم من الخدم والأسياد كانوا في رحلة مع أهاليهم وهم صغار. الرواية بتحكي إنه صار في حادثة في البحر واثنين ضاعوا. فالرواية كلها بتحكي إنه واحد من الأخوة اللي هو كان مع الأم راح يدور على أخوه اللي هو الأخو السيد اللي كانوا مع الأبو. فالتقوا فده لقى في مدينة بس ما كانش عارف إنه هو موجود أساسا فيها. فالرواية كلها بتحكي على الكوميديا اللي بتصير بين الناس بخربطوا من الأخ والتوأم، الأخ والخادم الأول والأخ والخادم الثاني. بتصير خطأ من الزوجة بفكر إنه زوجها الثاني هو زوجها، التوأم الثاني هو زوجها، والخادم بفكر إنه السيد الأول هو سيده، وبصير شربكة وما حدش بيعرف إنه الثاني موجود في المدينة. بالآخر آخرية الرواية بيكتشفوا إنه هم بعض موجودين بعض مع نفس المدينة بس.
Okay, what's the name of that? Is that
That's it.
what play is that? What's the name of the
In Arabic, it's
yeah.
كوميديا الأخطاء.
In English?
Well, I don't know in English. She told me that story. So
comedy of errors. The comedy of errors. Yeah,
yeah, something like that.
and now Mariam is jealous that the Zaina family are participating. If you have family members who want to participate, we can make a slot for them. نعمل كل أسبوعين talents مثلا اللي بده تجيب الحجة بده يجيب الحج مثلا يتنافسوا ونعطي اللي بيفوز نعطي حدا من العيلة العلامة تبعته. That would be fun. That would be really interesting. Okay, Noor, tell us something very briefly.
Okay, the past tense of William Shakespeare would was Shakespeare.
Would
was Shakespeare.
Would
Shakespeare.
Okay. Because I commented on this because shock.
Yeah, shock. Yeah, and well to would.
Okay, so William. Okay, William would I am was, but you don't say after would, can, could, shall, should, will, would. You don't say was. You have to use the infinitive. So it would be would I be, and after be you use the past participle, so it's passive. ما بنمشيش كل حاجه ببساطه. Would I be shaken speared?
No, he is written in SHOO.
Yeah, that's William. So would I, grammatically speaking, would I be shaken speared?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. But somebody tell us in the remaining 3 or 4 minutes if you have a funny, interesting thing that your family members told you, like your grandmother. Whose grandmother told her, gave her the book from her grandfather?
It's me.
How old is that book?
I don't know. It's like about ages.
Does it have a date? Can you look later on today and post the picture? That would be an interesting. If this book is like 100 years, I'm not sure how old. احنا المشكلة انه if you are young اللي بيكون كبير في العيلة يمكن في ناس انا درست امهاتهم اصلا يعني. لكن اللي بيكون اصغر واحد في العيلة ممكن تكون الحجة عمرها 60 سنة ولا 65 سنة. So
actually, like my whole family are obsessed with like Shakespeare.
did your grandfather go to university or something?
Yeah, he's translator.
Oh yeah, so he studied English.
Yeah.
Okay, you're lucky to have some of his books. You should be proud.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm studying translation like him. It's like my role model.
Like, don't let him help you with the final exams, with the quizzes online, okay?
Actually, like he died from a long time.
died like الله يرحمه إن شاء الله. طيب, somebody tell us one piece of information that you heard from your family, your mom, your dad, anybody. Anybody has any interesting piece of information? Any interesting story to share?
Yes, it's me.
Go on. Go on.
Actually, my dad told me that Shakespeare is, when I asked him about Shakespeare, like he told me that he's a famous scientist, especially in physics.
Really?
Or guys.
But yeah, we know there is some science in his works, but he's not a scientist like a scientist. He knows a little bit of physics, a little bit of chemistry, just general knowledge here and there. Asma, finally.
Can I say a joke?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Did you know that William Shakespeare died on the same day he was born? He must have been a fast writer. So that he was born.
So okay, thank you. So this is similar to the one I made here. But if he died, like if he was born early in the morning, April 23rd, and died late at night or afternoon, April 23rd, then it must have been super genius for a 5-hour kid to produce all these plays. I think this is hilarious. Thank you, Asma, for this joke. I love it. طيب, I'll stop here unless somebody wants to say something. Last one. Dareen, go on. Finally, Dareen.
Yes, doctor. I asked my mother about Shakespeare. She doesn't know about English, but she told me that she knows that Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet, and she told me the whole story, and I'm very impressed about this. Actually, I also asked my grandmother. She didn't know him. She wanted me to ask her about our homeland.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, grandmothers, if they don't know, they want
Yeah.
to speak about something that they know.
Yeah. Yeah.
ماشي يا جماعة, thank you very much. We stop here and we meet you next Sunday. We talk about the first scene from the great play Hamlet. Thank you. يعطيكم العافية وتصبحوا على خير.